learn English easily. The struggle of a homeless man. Once upon a time, in the heart of New York City, a man named Joe lived on the streets. Homeless, with no shelter above him, except the sky, Joe was a survivor. Despite having nothing, he had a heart full of resilience and kindness. This is a story about how Joe navigated through the scorching heat and cold, dealt with hunger, and survived life's adversities. When Joe was younger, he owned a small bakery. His cakes and bread were famous in the neighborhood. He was not wealthy, but he was happy. Then, unfortunately, a fire ravaged his bakery, leaving him in huge debt. Unable to repay, Joe lost everything, even his home. This was how Joe became homeless. When the summer arrived, it was scorching hot, sometimes reaching 100 degrees. The heat was intense, and the sun blazed down on the city streets. Joe had to think fast. He would stay in shaded areas during the day, often under bridges or in the shadowy corners of buildings. He used a hat found in the trash to cover his head to protect himself from the sun's harmful rays. Finding water was always a challenge in the heat, but Joe had a plan. He would visit the public parks early in the morning when the sprinklers were on and collect water in an old plastic bottle. He often stayed near places where free water was given out, like community events or marathons. Joe also learned that fruit was a good source of hydration, so he would search the trash cans outside fruit shops for any thrown-away pieces. Food was a problem too, but Joe was resourceful. He would check restaurant dumpsters after closing hours. They often discarded unsold food, and Joe would collect what he could. Sometimes, he would perform small tasks for kind-hearted restaurant owners, like washing dishes or sweeping floors, in exchange for a meal. However, the cold winters were the hardest. The temperature would drop below freezing, and the biting wind would cut through him. Joe knew he had to find warmth, or else he wouldn't survive. He collected old newspapers, stuffing them in his worn-out clothes for insulation. He had found a few blankets from a trash bin, which he would wrap around himself. During the coldest nights, he would seek shelter in subway stations, which were somewhat warmer than the streets. Sometimes when he gathered enough coins, he would buy a cheap cup of hot coffee, clutching the cup between his hands for the little warmth it provided. Despite the harsh conditions, Joe never lost his kindness. He always shared what he found with others who were in the same situation. He made friends with other homeless people, and they would often huddle together for warmth on freezing nights. Joe also made friends with a stray dog, whom he named Buddy. They became inseparable. Buddy provided companionship, and at times, his furry body gave Joe the extra warmth he needed to survive the cold nights. To keep himself healthy, Joe took advantage of free medical camps arranged by various NGOs and charity organizations. He tried to maintain cleanliness by washing up in public restrooms whenever possible. Living this way wasn't easy. There were days when Joe felt defeated, crushed by the weight of his hardships. But he was a fighter. He told himself that this was just a phase, and that one day things would get better. Joe believed in hope. He started to save the little money he would get from the odd jobs. He wanted to rebuild his life. It was a slow process, but Joe was persistent. He kept dreaming of owning a bakery again. This dream gave him the strength to face every day, to survive the hot summer and the freezing winter. One day, his kindness paid off. A man who owned a bakery and often gave Joe leftover bread fell ill. With no one to run his shop, he asked Joe for help. Seeing this as an opportunity, Joe agreed. He ran the shop with the same love and dedication he had for his own bakery. The customers loved him, and the business flourished. Impressed by Joe's hard work, the bakery owner offered him a permanent job. Joe accepted. His life started to change. He was able to afford a small room to live in. No more freezing cold or scorching heat. No more searching for food in dumpsters. Joe's journey was hard, but he made it through. He had survived, but more importantly, he never lost his kindness and hope, even in the face of adversity. He was a true testament to human resilience, showing that no matter how tough life gets, there's always a way to survive and thrive. From then on, Joe spent every winter in the warmth of his home and every summer under a sturdy roof. He was not homeless anymore, but he never forgot his past. He continued helping those who were in the same situation he was in. Every night, before he went to sleep, he looked at the stars outside his window and remembered the days when the sky was his only shelter. In the end, Joe's story is a powerful reminder that, no matter how low one's life may sink, there's always a way to rise again. It's about survival, resilience, and the power of hope. It's about how a homeless man faced the harsh weather, the biting cold, and the scorching heat, and how he rose above his circumstances to find a better life. And in his story, we find inspiration and strength to face our own hardships, believing that better days are ahead.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more.